It began as a ripple across the vast Pacific, quiet, unassuming, almost invisible to the human eye. But within 2 days that ripple transformed into Typhoon Ramil, a violent storm system now bearing down on the Philippines with unrelenting power. As of October 18, 2025, meteorologists report sustained winds near 70 miles per hour and gusts topping 85, fueled by sea surface temperatures hovering around 85 degrees Celsius, perfect conditions for explosive intensification. Authorities have raised the highest tropical cyclone alerts across southern Luzon, warning of destructive winds, flash floods, and landslides. More than 20,000 residents have already fled from coastal towns as heavy rain and powerful surf pound the shores. Tonight, the nation braces for impact. What began as a swirl of clouds is now a full-scale disaster in motion, and across the Pacific the world is watching as Typhoon Ramil makes landfall. By dawn on October 19th, Typhoon Ramil made its first landfall on Catanduanes Island, and chaos followed within minutes. Winds gusting over 80 miles per hour tore through homes, ripped billboards from steel frames, and sent corrugated metal sheets slicing through the air. Streets that were once quiet fishing lanes turned into torrents of mud and seawater. In Legazpi City, waves up to 10 feet high crashed over seawalls, flooding entire neighborhoods. Fishermen scrambled to secure their boats as the ocean swallowed coastal roads. Power poles snapped like matchsticks, plunging more than 50,000 households into darkness. Mayor Elena Santos described the moment simply, "It felt like the ocean was alive." It wasn't just wind, it was rage. Landslides crashed down rain-soaked hillsides in Camarines Sur, burying homes under tons of debris. In Sorsogon, rescue teams waded chest-deep through floodwaters, guiding families to higher ground. By mid-morning, communication lines had gone silent. The storm had cut off entire provinces, leaving only the sound of the wind, a constant roaring reminder of nature's power. Typhoon Ramil had officially turned the eastern Philippines into a battlefield of wind, water, and survival. Across southern Luzon, the night felt endless. The wind howled like a freight train, rattling rooftops and shattering windows as Typhoon Ramil raged for more than 12 straight hours. Rain poured relentlessly, more than 10 inches in a single day, turning streets into rivers and highways into lakes. In Albay province, floodwaters reached the rooftops of single-story homes. Families climbed trees or clung to floating debris as rescue teams fought their way through the current. In Sorsogon, volcanic ash from Mount Mayon mixed with rainwater, creating thick mud flows that rolled through entire neighborhoods. A family of 6 was found huddled on their rooftop after being stranded for hours, rescued by local fishermen using improvised wooden rafts. "We could hear the houses breaking apart in the dark," one survivor said. It sounded like the storm was tearing the world in half. In evacuation centers, hundreds of evacuees prayed as the wind screamed overhead. Volunteers handed out bottled water and blankets by flashlight, unsure whether their own homes had survived. When the winds finally calmed, silence took over, a heavy, unreal silence that carried the weight of loss. The first light of morning would reveal just how much had been taken. What made Typhoon Ramil so powerful was not just the wind, it was the water beneath it. Meteorologists from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center confirmed that sea surface temperatures in the Philippine Sea reached nearly 86 degrees, several degrees above average. That warmth acted like high-octane fuel feeding moisture into the atmosphere and supercharging the storm's rotating core. At the same time, low vertical wind shear the difference in wind speed between upper and lower air layers allowed the typhoon to remain perfectly symmetrical, spinning like a massive engine. The result, a compact but devastating cyclone capable of releasing energy equivalent to hundreds of nuclear bombs every hour. Experts warn that these rapid intensifications are becoming alarmingly common. Dr. Lin Wei, a climate scientist at the Pacific Institute, explains, "What used to take 3 or 4 days now happens in less than 1. Warmer oceans are giving storms the fuel to explode almost overnight." This phenomenon is part of a wider pattern across the Pacific, where rising ocean temperatures and shifting wind currents create the perfect breeding ground for extreme storms. Ramil wasn't just a storm. It was a signal, another warning from a planet growing hotter, angrier, and less predictable with every passing year. As Typhoon Ramil tore across Luzon, it wasn't just wind and rain that defined the night, it was human endurance. In the city of Naga, firefighters and soldiers braved near-zero visibility to rescue stranded families from rising floodwaters. Many worked without rest for over 20 hours, hauling ropes, inflatable boats, and stretchers through debris-choked streets. One team saved a newborn baby after her family's house collapsed under the weight of the storm. In Legazpi, volunteers formed human chains to help elderly residents cross knee-deep water, their flashlights flickering in the torrential rain. Others waded through flooded roads delivering food packs to families who refused to evacuate. Inside crowded evacuation centers, teachers, nurses, and students worked side by side to prepare hot meals. A power outage plunged the shelters into darkness, but no one stopped. "We've lost homes before," said one volunteer, "but we don't lose each other." Stories like these reveal a side of disaster often unseen, the quiet courage of ordinary people who refuse to surrender, even when nature turns hostile. Typhoon Ramil stripped towns bare, but it also exposed something unbreakable, the resilience and compassion of a nation that knows how to endure.
What a sound!
By the morning of October 20th, as Ramil's eye moved inland, the Philippine government had already mobilized one of the largest coordinated disaster responses of the year. More than 12,000 personnel from the Armed Forces Coast Guard and Red Cross were deployed across the Bicol and southern Luzon regions. 36 rescue vessels and 2 military aircraft conducted airlifts from isolated towns cut off by landslides and collapsed bridges. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. declared a state of calamity across affected provinces, releasing emergency funds for relief operations. Convoys of supply trucks rolled through flooded highways delivering food, clean water, and fuel to shelters. At the Escudero Sports Complex in Albay, engineers worked through the night to restore power for more than 80,000 residents left in the dark. Meanwhile, telecommunications companies rushed portable cell towers into disaster zones to reconnect families. International partners, including the United Nations, Japan, and the United States, offered logistical support and satellite imagery to assist rescue coordination. Yet, even amid recovery, officials warned that danger wasn't over. Floodwaters were still rising in central Luzon, and aftershocks of heavy rain threatened new landslides. The message from authorities was clear: stay vigilant. The storm has passed, but its risks are not yet gone. When the winds finally calmed and the skies turned pale again, the true scale of Typhoon Ramil's destruction came into focus. Entire villages lay buried in mud power lines draped across roads, and fishing boats were stranded in fields miles from the sea. Yet, amid the wreckage, people began to rebuild, sweeping mud from classrooms, salvaging wood from collapsed homes, and planting rice again in waterlogged soil. Experts call Ramil a textbook example of the new normal in a warming climate. What was once considered a once-in-a-decade superstorm now happens almost yearly. Warmer oceans, denser moisture in the air, and shifting monsoon patterns are amplifying tropical storms throughout the Pacific. But there's also another pattern emerging, one of resilience. From community leaders to teenagers, people across the Philippines are learning, adapting, and preparing faster than ever before. Early warning systems, evacuation drills, and digital weather networks have saved countless lives that might once have been lost. "We can't stop the storms," said climate scientist Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, "but we can stop them from destroying who we are." Ramil left behind scars, but also strength. It reminded the world that survival isn't just about endurance. It's about learning to live with a planet in flux. As dawn broke over the Philippine coastline, the waves finally began to retreat. The sky, once split open by lightning, glowed faintly gold over the ruins below. In the silence that followed, you could almost hear the heartbeat of a nation rising again. Typhoon. Ramil had tested every measure of human strength, wind against will, flood against faith. It destroyed homes, but not hope. It silenced cities, but not courage. And in its wake, it left a lesson that transcends borders. The storms of tomorrow are no longer distant threats, they are already here. From Manila to Miami, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, coastlines are changing. The question is not whether nature will strike again, but whether we will be ready when it does. So, as the rebuilding begins, let this moment echo beyond the islands, prepare, adapt, and never underestimate the sea. Because every storm tells the same story of loss of resilience and of our shared fight to endure. If this story moved, you help raise awareness. Like, share, and subscribe for more real-world documentaries about the power of nature and the strength of the human spirit.